everybody. Welcome to Digital Outlook. My name is Judy. I'm David's wife. And today we are so honored to have both of the brothers from Black Swan Capitalist, Vandel and Versan. And it is such a blessing to have you both here. I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this all week. And I know that we're going to have a really good conversation together. So I just wanted to welcome you guys onto the show.
Thank you so much, Judy.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to be here, finally get to talk to you.
I know, Versan, I've been waiting. I'm like, he's so busy.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell all our subscribers that if you already are not subscribed to Black Swan Capitalist, please at the end or in the middle or something, go click and give them a like and subscribe, because we're not in competition. As I always say, we're all on the same team. We're all trying to help you guys out there, and we're trying to give you the best knowledge that each of us have. And I look at it like a puzzle, and maybe you guys will agree. We all have a piece of the puzzle, a piece of the pie, and we all know a little bit more in one thing, a little bit less in another. And so it's a really good team, this whole digital asset, space. And so anyway, guys, go give them a like and subscribe, please. And if you're not liking and subscribing our channel, please do that too. So anyway,
You're right. Totally agree. The importance of this is all of us to have these open discussions so we can also learn from each other.
Yes, absolutely. And we always have something to learn. And you guys are young chickens. I'm an old chicken or rooster. I don't know. So I have lots to learn. A hen. Yeah, I'm not a rooster. I'm a hen.
I have a friend who runs with me at the park when I lived in Houston. Guy's 77 years old. You know what he does? Pull-ups and push-ups, and then runs with me at the park.
Wow. That would be my dream
age
to be.
really is just a number.
Yeah, I would love to be able to do that. I'm working on it. So maybe someday I'll be able to do it.
If you come to Florida, we can go to the beach, and then we can run on the beach. That would be fun.
Yes, that would be fun. And Versan will be at the conference in Florida with us. And so we're going to have a really great time. So I hope y'all come if you're in the vicinity. So guys, I want to go ahead and get started. I have a lot to discuss with you. So I want to start off with talking about the economy. And the reason why is because so many people talk about it, but yet there's so many people that aren't believers. They say, oh, Y2K came and went, nothing happened. I wasted all this money preparing for something that never came. And I just wanted to ask you guys two questions, and you can answer it whoever, wants to. But my two questions are, where do you see that the economy is going? And the second question is, why understanding the future direction is so important? And then we're going to talk about crypto after that. But I think it's important to lay a foundation about where we are headed in the future. So guys, go ahead, take it away and do your thing.
Would you like to go first, Vandel, or would you like me to take over? Because I've been following really the FOMC meeting, Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, and that's something I think I should discuss briefly. But Vandel, would you like to go first?
Oh, well, I mean, okay, sure. So, well, basically, as the government prints money, the continued currency debasement results in depreciation of our dollar. And that results in a rise in asset prices. So if you don't own assets, well, basically what's happening is you only get poorer. If you own assets, you're getting ahead of the curve from a financial standpoint. This affects every single person in the world. So that's why it's important to pay attention to it, because it's going to directly affect your quality of life, your well-being, and your future, as well as your family's future.
Explain how. How will it affect them? For those who, I have family members that don't believe, and so maybe they'll watch this, I can point them in the right direction. So how will it affect them if they're like, oh, like my kids, oh, mom, nothing's going to happen. You're so paranoid. Like, it's fine. What would you say to that?
Well, the first thing I would say is, what did your groceries cost you a couple of years ago? It costed you definitely less than what you're paying today. For the same amount today, you're paying almost twice the price. So if you actually pay attention to your bank account and how much you're spending much more than you did before. And that's a result of your currency losing value. And that is a direct result from putting money supply into the system. This is the currency debasement, creating money out of thin air. It affects you directly. So have your wages kept up with inflation? No, and they're not going to. They never will. That's why you never get ahead financially from saving money in a bank account or by working a 9 to 5. The truth is, maybe 30, 40 years ago, you could, because inflation and currency debasement was not as bad as it is today. But now it's becoming more difficult to get by, even if you do have a great job. You could have an excellent job, but your currency is devaluing so fast that even your wages aren't keeping up with true inflation and the cost of living in this world. And why is it important to pay attention? Because it's not going to get any better. That's why. It's only going to get worse.
I agree with him. Do you mind if I just pick up from here? Might as well.
Do. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So personally, I like to look at history. And when I talk about history of the central banks, the Federal Reserve specifically, it's evident that people, corporations, nations, even the military industrial complex, we're all heavily reliant on central banks because that is the lifeline of the monetary system. And that essentially makes us and those corporations and even our military a slave to the system. What's happening right now is the need for a new system. Central banks, obviously, they have their ability to print money. And that what they've been doing for all this time is perpetuating this debt-based Ponzi scheme. And that's really keeping the top rich and richer, and that continues to widen the wealth gap, impoverishing everybody else. And they're going to continue to operate this way for a short period of time. But like my brother said, debasement of the money. And when that debasement continues, obviously confidence in the currency is lost. And if you look around today, you could see many young people and just people all over the world are starting to realize that the dollar, or I'm sorry, their currencies, fiat currencies, are not working for them as they would. And that's because of this perpetual debt-based system. And what they keep telling us and selling us the lie is that we have to keep printing more money because the debt is unsustainable. But that is going to result in higher inflation because every time they print money, they have to take a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of fraction of purchasing power for every new dollar that they're putting into the system. Obviously, this results in higher inflation. And they've been doing this for a long time, going back again to history to consolidate the global financial system. And what that has done is eventually it is left everybody, the poor, if you will, in a very dire situation where people are unable to afford and even compete and stay afloat because people are burdened with debt, cheap money, high interest rates, and the top 1% have continued to benefit from all these loans. But what's happening now is that the system is not profitable for them anymore. And that's why there's this call for a new reset of the monetary system. And that's really what they've been setting the stage for. But what's interesting about this is that I was watching the FOMC meeting the other day, and you know how people keep saying they're going to keep the interest rate high? Okay, they've been dragging this high interest rate for a while. We had 3 rate hikes last year. They're going to have to lower the interest rate because they have to keep printing money. Houston, our city, our mayor just announced that we're bankrupt. This was only a few days ago. The mayor of Chicago said they're bankrupt. So what they're doing is sending a signal. And at the same time, we have geopolitical tensions on the rise, war, the green agenda. So all of this, what we're talking about, needs more money. So inevitably, they're going to have to lower the interest rate so they can print more cheap money. That is going to continue to further debase the currency, less confidence in that currency. Ultimately, for them to consolidate the financial system. So back to what my brother was saying, it's important to be on the right side of this global monetary transition. And what they're doing is they're shifting everything into a digital format. And that's where blockchain comes into the conversation. So I'll take a pause right there. I try to give people a macro view on things because it's all interconnected and there's so much more I can talk about that goes into what I'm trying to say right here. So,
and I probably have the question to ask that. So my next question is, people are into crypto for different reasons. And I put, some of them are into get rich quick. They're using it like a Las Vegas slot machine. Hey, and when they keep pulling the handle and they're not getting rich right away, they're getting frustrated and think, this is crap. It's not worth it. I'm out of here. Other people are doing it to preserve wealth. And so my question is, explain why crypto is so important going into the future.
I'll touch on this very lightly, and I'll let my
Does that
brother
help you set
continue.
up what you want to say?
Yeah, well, the way I see it is this: when I'm investing in cryptocurrencies or blockchain technology, I like to call it the protocol because that's really what it is. You're basically acquiring a piece of the network of the future. That's the protocol. So you're not just a crypto investor, you're a stakeholder in the technology that's building the infrastructure for the financial future, financial institutions, and just everything else, including supply chains, smart contracts. So everything is becoming digitized. And we know this for a fact. This is not just a World Economic Forum agenda. And Yuval Harari, he's trying to bring us to the point of transhumanism.
Right.
Everything is getting digitized and it's going to be tokenized on the blockchain.
Explain what tokenized is real quick, Versan, because I know people don't understand what tokenized, like, talk about it like a third grader, like just dumb it down for us that we can understand. What does an example of tokenization means? Why is that important? Why does that even matter? Because that is part of this ecosystem, but we don't get it, I think, as a general population.
I'll make it short and simple because tokenization is really taking a physical, tangible asset and really putting it on the blockchain in a digital format. A smart contract helps you move a tokenized asset from one owner to the other. That's really it. So this is the future. This is where everything's going. It's going online. And that's really where Web 3.0 comes into the conversation as well. And everything is going to be eventually tokenized, or if you want, like, make it a derivative. It's more like a derivative. We're all becoming tokenized commodities, even people. And that could be very dangerous too.
Yes.
So going digital, one thing I should tell people is that we need a digital constitution if we are going digital. Anyways, back to the crypto stuff though. Investing in these technologies, you're essentially acquiring a piece of the network, building that infrastructure. So how do you circumvent a central bank digital currency? In my opinion, own the technologies that are building the infrastructure for CBDC. So you don't have to be subjected to a CBDC. Anyways, and yeah, I'll give you.
Vandell, do you have anything to add to that? Why it's important to get into crypto for the future?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a digital revolution that is going to transform the global economy and the world forever. So, for example, in the early 90s and the 2000s, we had a similar revolution that took place. It was the dot-com bubble, the internet, the emergence of tech companies, internet companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and it changed the world forever.
And no one understood it though when it came out. That was my generation, and people mocked it and thought, who's going to invest in an Apple? What does that mean, you know?
Well, it means, yes, absolutely. And the thing is, even experts and economists on mainstream media were telling viewers to stay away from it. It's a trend. It's a fad. It's not going to be around. But now you can't find one person in a developed country or any business that does not have internet.
That's right.
So it's a part of everyday life now. And there's no difference with blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, and digital assets. It's a revolution that is going to transform the entire world forever. And you can either capitalize on it, or you could sit on the sidelines and miss the opportunity and kick yourself for the rest of your life. The only difference with this transformation and this wealth transfer is the difference between this and the internet is, first of all, this adoption phase is much faster and more rapid of adoption than the internet was. And this has been, there is the data there to prove that. The second thing is, during the internet, when cell phones were coming out and just, you know, the internet and Google, all these tech companies, you couldn't really make money from them, and you couldn't capitalize on it in any way, shape, or form unless you owned a share of the company or the stock. Well, this is completely different because you can actually make money in with this revolution through blockchain technology and digital assets by just owning a piece of the network or the protocol or the token. And that's essentially what owning the token is from the network. You're owning a piece of the infrastructure that's building tomorrow's future. So essentially, you're like a technology network protocol investor, not a Donkey Kong token crypto investor. So
Right.
people need to change their mindsets around that. See, the mainstream media did an excellent job at putting a bad taste in people's mouth. It's a scam. It's a scam. And, you know, every revolution like this, we've had bad actors. That's part of the journey. You know, you just have to be smart enough to distinguish and discern misinformation and the scams. And this is where research and due diligence comes in, and really having good judgment so that you could properly and appropriately position yourself in the right assets. Because if not, you're going to get left behind, and inflation is going to destroy you. Real inflation.
Yep.
And what about, and go on a little bit more, I want to say, I know people who have quite large bank accounts with cash in it, and they think that either Jesus is coming back soon and they don't have to worry about it, or, you know, it's going to be fine, everything's going to work out. And I think they don't realize that, well, I won't speculate. What do you think will happen to people that have their little nest egg in cash, like they're retired, they've maybe got a settlement for something, but they have a little cash and it's in the bank, and they're, you know, they're like Scrooge McDuck, they're just holding on to it, and they think they're all safe and fine because they have liquid assets. What is your perspective, guys, on what's going to happen to that cash that they have sitting in the bank when the reset happens, which is not going to be 25 years from now, by the way.
No, it's around
coming
the corner.
soon. Jesus might not be coming back soon, or maybe he is, but the reset for sure is coming back, and we could probably put a shorter date on that one.
Well, if anything, he'll come back, but it would be before hell breaks loose. It would be after hell breaks loose on earth.
Exactly.
So yeah, don't wait for that.
Right. But what will happen to people's cash when it's in the bank and they think that everything's fine like it was 10 years ago? What will happen if they don't make a move doing something besides gold and silver? Because they all have gold and silver. Besides that, what would you say to them if your mom or dad had money in the bank like that and they were not understanding what was happening? What would you suggest?
Do you want to go, Verson, or do you want me to go?
You
I'll
both
let
can
you
go.
and then we'll go at the
Okay,
same
well,
time. You want to
first
go
of
at
all,
the same time?
we've guided our family in the right direction already on this this matter. For example, our mother, our father as well. But they already know what's going on. But I'll talk to you like I'm talking to my mother.
Yes.
So,
Who doesn't know anything? She's just retired. She's got her little nest egg. She's all happy. What would you say to mom?
well,
dad?
first of all, you need to understand that banks are very vulnerable, particularly small banks, because they have a lot of debt, and with a high interest environment, a lot of high inflation, just stress on the economy and the banking system. They're in a bad situation. The bigger banks, they have a better chance of survival, but smaller banks are actually in a deeper hole right now and have a lot more bad leverage and loans, for example, commercial loans that could actually make a lot of these small to medium-sized banks close overnight. It's coming, actually. It's just hard to tell which banks it's going to be and which ones will get saved.
Right.
But it's been happening. We had First Republic, Silicon Valley Bank. The list goes on, and there will be more small to medium-sized banks that go bust. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, for example, in 2008, you know, a lot of people had a 401k, they had their pensions. We had the 2008 financial crisis in the United States. A lot of people had their 401k and all their money in the hands of a mutual fund company or just a few stocks. And during that financial crisis, those that were actually planning to retire around that time lost everything. It was devastating. And they actually had to work for the next 20 to 30 years until they were on their deathbed, because they had all their eggs in one basket and they lost it all because we had a black swan event, a financial crisis, and they had to pay the consequences and they couldn't retire. It's such a shame, but it's a sad truth. Now, that's no different from having all your money in one small bank. especially in a savings account, is really a loser's account because inflation is going higher than the interest that the savings account is paying you. So you're really not saving anything. It's a scam in today's environment. But having all your money in one bank is extremely dangerous because the small banks are extremely vulnerable, small to medium-sized banks. And if they do go bust, there's this thing called a bail-in, which is legal, by the way.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. A bail-in is when you have given them the permission and consent upon opening a bank account, whether it's a checking account or a savings account, you've given them the permission to use your funds and your deposits as required. What that means is if they are facing financial issues, they have your permission to use your money in the bank account, in your bank account, to pay off their debt and to get out of the problem that they're in.
And that goes for big banks too. It's not just little banks, right? Like big banks can do bail-ins too, from what I understand. Okay.
Yes, they can. Now, the thing is with big banks, if you actually see what the plan is here, what they're doing, they are planning to keep some of the big banks around. The idea is to knock out the small to medium-sized banks to consolidate and move the power to the big banks.
Are credit unions included in that? Sorry, I just wanted to ask, are credit unions involved in that too, Vandal?
Credit unions, in my opinion, I think are a little safer than a small bank because they don't have as much leverage and they don't take as much high risk as small banks do.
Okay.
The credit unions, but they're still vulnerable. You know, anything can happen with a credit union as well. But the big banks, they have a better chance of making it through this economic tough times and volatility that we're about to that we're experiencing and that we're going to continue to see. Is actually the big banks that will get the bailout first, if anything. So because they are supposed to be around, they're labeled as a systematically important financial institution. It's SIFI. That's the acronym. And that means the government needs those banks to be fully operating and in business in order for the economy to function properly. That's what that means. So they get the first golden ticket to be saved. That's what that means. That's why big banks are safer than small banks, if you had to be with a bank, that is. But they're still vulnerable, but not as much as small or medium-sized banks. The end goal, as my brother discussed previously on one of his videos, and we've talked about in the past, is to move the power from the small banks to the big banks. And actually, Jerome Powell said the other day, he's the head of the Federal Reserve. He said, yes, small to medium-sized banks are in danger. He said, we're going to see more bank failures. He said, not particularly with bigger banks. Those are his words. That's what he said. So he's literally telling you, look, guys, if you want to have any chance of saving any little money you have that's sitting in a bank, you're better off moving it to a bigger bank. And that's what they want, you see, to shift the power to the big banks and knock out the small banks. And this has been happening. It's been going on. It's just a gradual, slow process that's transpiring.
Yep. Death by 1,000 cuts.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. So Versan, so if you have cash, it's important to diversify, I would say. And so why is crypto important going into this new reset?
Well, crypto, I think we just talked about how it's important because it's building that infrastructure, but I would like to briefly expand on what my brother was saying.
Okay, good.
But what he was talking about there is a consolidation phase. So a financial crisis is inevitable. The system was always designed to fail, but once they've gained enough control for us not to do anything about it, the financial crisis will begin as a direct result of the unsustainable debt, everything we just talked about. There will also become a point where people just can't tolerate the economic strain any longer. And when that happens, unfortunately, and this is what we were also talking about, is that when people realize the reality of the situation, it'll be far too late. So you want to be early in adopting these new technologies because, again, everything is going digital. Interestingly, as as the liquidity is also straining, we see an announcement that came out from Swift, I believe, and they were talking about getting ready to 12 to 24 months to roll out the new CBDC platform. And I don't think the timing is a coincidence. They want it to coincide with the crisis that they're anticipating. So the timing, again, is not an accident. And their end goal is really the implementation of a CBDC. People know it as a central bank digital currency. It is also known as a citizen behavioral disciplinary currency. It's a digital slave system under like a digital coupon under the guise of a level playing field. And that's how they're going to sell it to the masses, right?
So if your
But
money's in the bank, is that what they'll use? So if I have 50,000 in the bank, they'll turn it into a CBDC and then they'll control me. Is that how it works?
Well, that's something Clive was trying to really explain to us, that he believes that will roll over into the new money, depending on what the currency is set at, God knows. Then you would have an equivalent or something even less or even more, maybe, and I would say that they would make it more. That way it's an incentive for you to feel like you're getting more, but you're not. In fact, with a digital money, you are essentially trapped. You have no option to escape. And that's the problem. When everything goes digital, that's it. So the new system goes live. And if you're on the outside, you're screwed in many ways. And people will try to sugarcoat this, but you can't. If you're inside, again, investing in the technologies, then there you go. You have some leverage, I guess.
Yeah, because if it's programmable, you'll never be able to save money. Okay.
Right.
That's right.
You'll never be able to save. And the reason people can get ahead financially in life is two reasons. They're able to invest, accumulate wealth, and they're able to save.
Yes.
It's a combination of both. But I mean, what is investing in the future when you have AI and algorithms doing everything? Like, you see the opportunities that present themselves now with capitalizing on this wealth transfer, AI, robotics, investing in digital assets, crypto, blockchain technology. These investment strategies and opportunities are never going to be available again in the future as AI, robotics, and crypto and blockchain mature. So this is it. This is it. If you've been trying to get ahead, if you've been trying to change your life, change the financial future of yourself and your family, your outcome, this is it. This is your opportunity, because it's never going to be the same again. And the workforce is never going to be the same again. Nothing will. Investing will never be the same again. This is it, probably for the next, 80 to 100 years. And I just wanted to say something on cryptocurrencies and why. Why digital assets? Why crypto? Why not stocks, real estate, this and that? We look at everything from this perspective. Which one of these assets are the most undervalued that will provide the best return on investment if I invest now? That's how I look at it. There's several asset classes. There's bonds, there's ETFs, there's stocks, real estate, gold, silver, crypto. The list goes on. But out of all the current assets available to invest in, crypto and digital assets are the best performing risk-adjusted reward asset class in the world. Period. Full stop. That's a fact. And that's why it's so important to properly position yourself by investing in the right digital assets and crypto, because it's just a matter of time before this transformative disruption fully takes effect and you'll miss it. As I said, it's not going to have, this opportunity will not be available again in the future. And the ultimate hedge against inflation and currency debasement at the moment, I have three. The top one is cryptocurrency and digital assets. That's the best ROI. And right below that is gold and silver. And crypto and digital assets for me is an investment. That's going to create me wealth. Gold and silver is my emergency fund for preserving wealth. That's how I look at it. Like, you're not going to need to use your gold and silver. It will appreciate in value. It's been rising in value for over 5,000 years. It's obviously not going to zero, but you'll
Right.
never need to use that unless this turned into a Mad Max situation and the whole dollar and the economy collapse. Maybe, just maybe, it will somebody would accept it for something, you know. But as of today, people know what cash is.
Right.
So that's why it's important to have some cash as well. Because if things hit the fan tomorrow, yeah, people will still accept cash because
Yes.
they know
Yes.
what money, then that's money in their head, you know.
Right.
But that's why it's important to take advantage of this once in a lifetime opportunity and set yourself up for success financially. Because as I said, your wages are not keeping up. You're not getting ahead. Even if you own stocks in the equity market, if you just look at the data and do the calculations, it's basic math.
Mhm.
Your stocks that you own are not even keeping up or beating inflation, real inflation, the cost of living. And your wages aren't either. So if you own the stock market, it looks like the S&P 500's rising, the Nasdaq's rising, sure, but it's rising at the same rate as your cost of living and inflation. So you're really breaking even.
Right. You're not
You're
getting
not
ahead.
keeping up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're-
and if
yep.
you have you're not keeping up and getting ahead.
Well,
Mhm.
that's what makes me laugh sometimes when I have my friends tell me, "Oh, I got a raise." Well, by the time you get that raise, the price of gas and everything else is higher. So, and
That's good.
they don't realize that. Yeah, when they look at, see, most people don't understand really how money works. They'll be at a grocery store and they'll say, "Oh, why did milk go up $2?" But they'll think that the milk got more valuable. The truth is, your currency got worth less.
Exactly.